Hello, this is NOWMAN, and welcome to the NOWMAN Show. Joining us today is ShawnCaseyO'Brien. He was born in Michigan in the 1950s. As a 20-year-old, he hitchhiked to California, lived in Venice Beach, started a punk rock band called the Cripples. He was the singer and songwriter, and he was born with cerebral palsy and uses crutches to walk. And he is now here to talk to us about music and also his books. He's writing a new book. Please welcome to the NOWMAN Show, ShawnCaseyO'Brien. Thank you for being here.
Great to be here with you once again, sir.
So now, you hitchhiked out here to California because you were going to work on a political campaign, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you get into music? What happened there?
Well, like you said, I came out originally to California to work for a political campaign, and the chief fundraiser found out I needed housing. And she said, now we're at 2nd and Santa Monica for all your viewers that know where 2nd and Santa Monica is in Santa Monica. And she said, I have an apartment building in Venice. I was so new, I was like, where's Venice?
Yeah.
She goes, that way.
Oh yeah, right.
And so I went down there that weekend, and I loved the apartment. I walked down a block to the beach. I couldn't believe that I ended up here because, there's all the creative people and the pretty girls. And for a 21-year-old guy,
wow, heaven.
Heaven. And then, of course, I met a lot of musicians, and they were all folk singers, okay?
Yeah.
And I told them, guys, this is passé. You have to start a punk band, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I got a great idea for a punk band, the Cripples. And they laughed. They thought that was fun because I have cerebral palsy, walk on crutches.
Yeah.
And I said, I got a great opening line for a song. I can't come because I'm blind, deaf, and dumb. And that really slayed them. And then a couple weeks later, one of my musicians, Robert Lasan, ran in the house and said, hey, write that song, write all the lyrics, because in a couple of days we're going to go into this 4-track in the valley. That's when a 4-track, you'll appreciate this, that's when a 4-track filled a garage.
Right.
Now it's a little box that sits in the middle of the table, right?
Yeah, right.
So I wrote the lyrics, they put music to it, and we went down, and I was nervous, sweating profusely, and we did it all in one take.
Wow.
So it didn't cost much money. I think we spent $60.
Wow.
And
where did you record that at?
At a little studio in a garage that didn't even at the time have a name.
Wow.
So I said, that's great. Now I'll have my little tape, my little one song. I can, anytime we're joking around, I can put it
on. You had it on a cassette tape.
Yeah, that's when they had cassettes, right?
Right.
And so I just thought of it as a joke, just something to do while I was, I was busy being a writer, being a literary guy.
Yeah.
And so a couple weeks later, Robert runs back into the apartment and says, hey man, they want to meet you down at the studio. And I'm like, who are they?
Right.
He said, the 3 guys that run the studio want to meet you. And I thought he was pulling my leg. Turns out they did want to meet me. And when I walked in, this guy, wonderful guy named John Baer, who's really responsible for the Cripples, he says, you know what you have here? I said, yeah, I got a song. He said, no, you have a concept.
Wow.
And he said, if you will write songs about all the different Cripples, political, spiritual, economic, all of them, we'll record a demo for you.
Wow.
So me and Robert locked ourselves, it's the proverbial lock yourself in the room with enough drugs and alcohol and write like crazy, right? And we did, and we went in it, and they were good to their word. We spent about 3 months with them, and they produced this phenomenal demo, all 4-track. I learned how to ping pong, okay?
Yeah, ping pong.
Yeah.
And
And
how many songs were on that demo?
I think we had 5 or 6, okay? And then a couple weeks later, it's only in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'm hitchhiking home because I didn't drive at the time. And I'm standing again at 2nd and Santa Monica, So a lot happened in my life at 2nd and Santa Monica.
So you were in Santa Monica and you were hitchhiking back home?
Back to Venice. Back to Venice,
okay.
right? And they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
And I stuck up my thumb, and this yellow car goes by. And then this sky blue station wagon goes by and pulls over. So I run up to it, and I look in the window like I always do to make sure it's not somebody with a weapon.
Yeah.
And I see this profile, and I go, oh my God, that's Bob Dylan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so
Well, it was blue station
in a
wagon.
sky blue station wagon with his cowboy hat on, his sunglasses, and everything.
Oh, did he look maybe something kind of like this? Let's see.
There you go.
I don't know, maybe like. Is that how maybe he kind of looked?
Well,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah, more or less. Okay, you're not the spitting image.
Right,
but,
right.
You know, you'll do in a pinch. Okay.
Yeah.
So I get in the car because I can't believe that, you know, of all people to get picked up by.
Yeah.
And he says to me, "Where are you going?" I said, "Rosen Pacific." He says, "What do you do?" I said, I got a punk band. I got a band."
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh yeah, what's it called?" And this whole time he hasn't looked at me. He's just straight ahead driving, hadn't looked at me. He says, "What's it called?" I go, "The Cripples." Bob Dylan looks at me, takes his sunglasses off, puts them on his cowboy hat, and he says, "The Cripples?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Sing me a song." So right there in his front seat, I start singing him, "I'm Your Cripple." And my brain is melting. I can't believe I'm yelling lyrics at Bob Dylan, right? So he says, "That's pretty good. Sing me another one." So I sang him Straight Jacket. I'm not going to not sing him the damn songs. And he says, "What happened?" And I tell him I have cerebral palsy. He says, "Do you think God can heal you?" And
Really? He asked you that question?
He asked me, "Did I think God?" And the last thing I wanted to do was get into a religious discussion with Bob Dylan because I knew that he had just released Slow Train
Coming. That's
which
the
was
tour I
his
saw.
Christian conversion, right?
Or supposedly.
Right. And so I didn't want to, I just said, "No, I didn't go." I said, "Well, you know, Bob, I don't believe in organized religion, but as I understand it, neither does God." And he laughed. He liked the joke.
Wow.
He liked it.
Great.
And so we're getting pretty close at this time to where I'm going to be dropped off. And I figured, "Sean, you're never going to get 10 minutes alone with Bob Dylan. So go for broke." So I said, "You know, Bob, I don't want to take you out of your way, but I do have a demo at my house." "You're not taking me out of my way. Let's go." Bob Dylan comes to my house. And we pull up behind the building. And he says, "Go get your tape. I'll wait right here." So like a bullet, man, I'm up the stairs and I get the tape and I come back and he puts it in the cassette player and he didn't rewind it. It started with a reggae song we did called "Woman is a Crutch," one of my favorite songs that I've ever written. It's a reggae tune. And he's like, "Who's playing that? Who's playing that sax over there?" And I'm saying, "Oh, that's my man Mark. He did that in one take. Isn't that unbelievable?" So then Bob says, "Can I keep the tape?" I'm like, "Bob, steal the damn tape." So
Can I keep the tape?
Yeah, can I keep the tape? I go like, "Yeah, of course you can." What am I going to say? No?
Yeah, right.
So anyways, he says, "You'll hear from me." And I said, "Will I really?" And he says, "Yeah, you really will." I think he got a little irritated, like I was questioning him or something. And I wasn't. I was just like, "Will I really?" So anyways, I bummed a cigarette off him, which I'm still mad to this day. I didn't keep the cigarette butt as a memento. And then to make a long story short, a few weeks later, I get a call from my lawyer. And he says, "Have you ever heard of Management 3? They want to meet with you." And I knew that that was Bob's management company. And I'm figuring, Bob Dylan set this up. Yeah, I want to take that meeting. Let's go to that meeting. Yeah. So we go there. And I'm explaining to the president of the company, Bob Finkelstein, the concept. What we're saying to people is stop being afraid, get proud of how you're made. We're trying to do for the word cripple what James Brown did for the word black, give it a positive connotation as opposed to a negative. And I can see the wheels are turning. And there's all these really well-coiffed people around the table. I can see that I've got them intrigued, right? But for 45 minutes, nobody mentions Dylan. So as I'm literally getting up to leave, I go, "Hey, Mr. Finkelstein, one of your clients has my tape." He goes, "Oh, yeah? Who?" And right there, I realized.
And they didn't know?
They didn't know. I realized my lawyer actually put this together. So I turn to him and I say, "Bob Dylan, you should have seen." It was like a Fellini movie, man. All these well-coiffed people jumping up in unison. "Bob Dylan's got your tape. Bob Dylan's got your tape." Wow. I'm like, "Yeah." 2 days later, they called me and said, "We don't want to give you a record deal. We want to give you your own label."
Wow.
And I was told later by the secretaries, because as you know, whenever you're dealing in business, get to know the secretaries. They give you the lay of the land.
That's right.
And they said, "Sean, when you left, calls went out around the world." And of course, Bob was right there in Malibu. And he said, "You should sign him. The kid's a great poet." That's what they told me.
That's what he said.
And and I couldn't believe this.
You cannot get a better compliment than that.
Well, that's why I never have doubted my lyrical abilities. When you get that, and in fact, they told me one day when Bob was in the office, he was walking around playing our tape for people. He had a little tape, and he was playing our tape.
Wow.
And they kept thinking, what is Bob Dylan doing with a Rolling Stones tape? You know? So Bob was very kind to me. And then, you know, it goes from there, but I'll let you get to the next question.
So you know, the Cripples, then you started playing lots of gigs, and what happened?
Well, we got signed by Management of Three, sight unseen. The first gig I ever did in my whole life, public gig, was I headlined the Whiskey.
Wow.
Yeah, first gig.
What year was that?
This had to be 79, 80.
Okay.
And then, of course, they were putting out the movie Cruising, which was the most controversial movie of the 1980s.
Now, who did that film?
Weindrop produced it. My manager produced it.
Wow, wow.
And they said, you know, we're going to put this movie out. It's kind of controversial. And I said, guys, I got a band called The Cripples. I'm not worried about controversy, okay? I said, who's producing it? And they said, Jack Nietzsche. And I was like, I don't care what the movie is. I want to work with Jack. Because you know, he had produced the Rolling Stones. He had produced, you know, Neil Young. People I just admired. So I was like, I don't care. I want to work with Jack Nietzsche. So we did a little demo of some of the songs for consideration in the movie. And they wanted to put a punk rock new wave soundtrack behind it. That was the whole point of the thing. And we did a little demo of some of the songs that we were proposing to do for it. And Nietzsche heard it, and he came to my house, and he says, Shawn, he says, I really like your stuff.
Yeah.
And he says, but I want you to write me a song where you are the musical voice of the murderer.
Wow.
And for your listeners that don't know, it is really what it is, a detective story.
Right.
That happens to take place in the S&M gay world, okay? And he says, I want you to be the musical voice of the murderer. And I'm thinking to myself, I can relate to that, you know?
Wow.
But I said to myself, don't say no, because as you know, Dan, whenever anybody offers you, just say yes, because if you don't, somebody who's a little hungrier and less talented is going to get the gig, right?
That's true.
So I said, I don't care. So we talked. He had told me the gist of the film. I hadn't read the book. I just knew it was a murder mystery. And so I'm thinking to myself, what would motivate a guy to go out and kill these men like this? And I said, loneliness. And I sat down, and in less than an hour, I wrote the song Loneliness. And I called Jack up the next day, and I said, I want to read you the lyrics over the phone. And I read them to him, and he's like, you've done it. Shawn, you did it, you did it, you did it.
You captured the emotion of the whole character.
And he says, so get your bandmates to put the music together and everything. And we went into the studio. One of the craziest. The new book I'm writing is called The Rock Years. If only you could hear the music. And there's so many crazy stories in this book. One of them being the night that we were going into the studio to first work with Nietzsche, I got to watch Jack on the local night news because he was being arraigned for rape of the actress Carrie Snodgrass.
Oh, really?
And I'm looking at this going, in less than 3 hours, I'm going to be in the studio with Jack.
Wow.
And Jack is not going to be a happy camper.
Wow.
And when people say, man, that loneliness, that was so intense. How did you do that? Well, I want you to know. There was a lot of tenseness in the studio that night. And so you'll have to read the book to get the end of the story. Because what made Jack the angriest, and I don't want to give this away, was he says, you know what makes me the maddest, Shawn? I go, no, Jack, what makes you the maddest about the whole thing? He said, I gave him the idea. He said some things to her, and the next thing he knows, he's being handcuffed for rape by instrumentality. And I don't want to go into it because it's kind of blue. And when I went in to record the song, when I'm recording, I always get down on my knees to do the vocal because I don't want to fall over in the middle of a take. So I do as I always do. I get down on my knees. I turn to John Baer, my keyboard player, and said, John, I'm going to lay down a scratch vocal while you guys get the basic track, drums, guitar, bass. And I'll put a scratch vocal on. We'll come back later and do it. Anyways, so we do it. And we do just the take, and they get it. I look up. I haven't gotten up off my knees. I look up and here comes Jack, followed by 30 of the most well-dressed people you've ever
How
seen.
many?
About 30 of the most well-dressed people.
Really?
Yes, because Management 3 had never seen me in action.
Oh, wow.
So they all showed up to see
Wow.
this, right?
Wow.
I didn't know who they were. But
Right.
Jack comes out, and before I could even he puts his hands on my shoulders, and I'm going to paraphrase it just a little bit for your audience here. He says, "You're better than Jagger, and you don't have to get off your damn knees." And I go, "Well, I guess they like that." So I turn to John Barron. I go, "That's it. That's the vocal. That's it. You got the basic. Good." They did some guitar overdubs and things, but that was all one take.
And that ended up in the soundtrack
Yeah.
of the film.
In fact, as I'm standing there, one of those well-dressed people was this big guy in a safari outfit.
Safari outfit.
Going, "It's in.
It's
in." And I'm like, "Who's that guy?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "That's the director. That's William Friedkin."
William Friedkin.
And I said,
who also directed films like The Exorcist.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And he's standing there going, "It's in, it's in." And so I said to the engineer, I said, "Who else is in?" He said, "Nobody right now, Sean. You're the first."
Wow.
And I was like, "Man, that was a good take."
Yeah, that was a good take. So a lot has happened with that film. It literally went from
from
very
being-
controversial film to now a cult
Now,
classic.
yes, now it's a cult classic. I can't believe it, you know?
Yeah.
And there are 2 record companies that are going to re-release the soundtrack. In fact, one was released in November.
Wow.
And another one is going to come out shortly from Mondo Records.
Wow.
And they want to do a 3-record set where they take all the unreleased stuff and include that in the
So
mix.
how many songs were submitted for the soundtrack from the Cripples?
Well, we put down 6, and then Jack wanted me to write a whole new one. So we did 2. We got 2 in there. We're the only band that got 2 on the album. And
what are the other bands that are in the soundtrack? The
Germs, Rough Trade, Captain Himbad, which is really the Funkadelics. Okay, that was the name they used. John Haidt.
John Hyatt.
Hyatt, thank you.
Yeah.
And anyways,
Great
the
soundtrack.
guy at Mondo Records, I said to him, nice guy, Rob Jones, I said, "Why do you guys want to re-release this soundtrack?" And you know what he told me?
What?
He said, "Cruising is the second most requested movie to be re-released by moviegoers."
Really?
I said, "You're kidding me. I can't believe it." He said, "It's the second most requested." I said,
What's
"Well,
the
what's the
first?
first?" Back to the Future.
Ah.
He said, "That's why we want to re-release the soundtrack, because we know there's this pent-up demand for this movie."
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, when we went to see it at the premiere, we had to walk through a police line.
Wow.
Now it's the second most requested film to be re-released. So
since that time,
quite a turnaround.
Yeah. Since that time, you have continued to write songs and perform?
Yeah, I have a catalog of about 30 songs, and if any of you young musicians need material, go to ShawnCaseyO'Brien.com. No, I'm serious. I'm right now in the midst of looking for a publishing deal, because I have started to convert, you know about this, everything to digital, because the tapes die.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right. You got to get it converted. Yep.
So I have been, and I've got 30 that have been digitized, and I probably have another 10 or 15 minimum on the tapes that I haven't got to yet. But I have quite a big, diverse catalog of songs that can work in almost any genre, because one of my rules as a songwriter is to always go universal.
Yes.
So that, if you want to do it as a country classic, it's a shame. You can do it as a country classic, you can do it as a rock tune, it doesn't matter, because I do always write with universal concerns. And also, I want them to be universal, particularly with the cripples, because cripples are everywhere.
That's right.
We're everywhere, man.
And that's why you wrote the book For the Love of Long Shots.
Yeah, I wrote
a memoir on democracy.
Then we had the typical problems with some of the more conservative people in the music community.
Yeah.
And I got blacklisted.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, I had.
What happened?
I had. Me and my manager, Jerry Weintraub, he wanted me to be John Denver on sticks. And I'm standing there in my eggplant purple hair, my mascara and ripped jeans going, "You're out of your mind, right?" Because I do social satire, okay? I'm cutting edge social satire.
That was before Weird-Al Yankovic, right?
Yeah, right. And I do love social satire.
Yes.
And the cripples were a great vehicle to do all kinds of social
Anything,
satire. Because there are cripples everywhere, and they
That's
come
right.
in every kind. Once I discovered that, it was, but they wanted me to be John Denver on sticks.
And that was just not going to happen.
And I said, guys, no. So I figured, well, if you don't like it, I'll go around and we'll play around. And I had more than one A&R man come to me and go, Shawn, we love what you do. Nobody does what you do. Nobody sings about what you sing about. But if I sign you, I don't get Frank Sinatra. I don't get the Moody Blues.
Wow.
I don't get John Denver. So I was virtually blacklisted. And which is sad, because if they had let us back in 79 and 80 do all this, we would be the godfathers of rap, gangster rap, everything that has come out. And now, the lyrics in my songs sound so tame when you listen to today's music. I'm like, Jerry Weintraub, you made a big mistake.
Well,
and but that's and it's going to make a great story for the rock years. And I'm over 100. Pardon me, not 100. I'm over 10,000 words into the new manuscript, and I'm hoping over the next 6 months to get at least a good rough draft done.
So the new book is going to be called what?
The Rock Years. If only you could hear the music. And what I'm trying to do is lead each chapter off with a set of my lyrics, and then tell the story through telling you what went into creating that song, what happened around it, because I figure I get 2 for 1 that way. You buy the book, and who knows, somebody might read the book and go, I want to do Woman as a Crutch, or I want to do It's a Shame, or I want to do One Night Stand. So I figured, put your lyrics in there and tell the story.
So for more information about you, where can people go?
Go to ShawnCaseyO'Brien, ShawnCaseyO'Brien.com. And you can read about my history, you can get the books, and there's music there. If you want to also hear some of the music that was recorded by the Cripples and Spare Parts and some of the other bands I worked with, you can go to SoundCloud.com, all one word, SoundCloud.com/Irish SOB, IRISH SOB. And when your name is Shawn O'Brien, the kids at camp never let you forget that you're an SOB. So I decided I'm going to use this to my advantage. But if you go to SoundCloud.com/Irish SOB, I've got 5 or 6 tunes up there. And like I said, if you like any of those.
You have 2 other bands also featured on SoundCloud.
Well, after the Cripples, I went in with my dear friend, Sean D., and we started Spare Parts. And it was really nice because
Is that a punk rock band also, or?
Yeah, punk, funk.
You went all over the place.
We're very eclectic. Very eclectic. And she was a brilliant songwriter and a brilliant singer, most beautiful voice. And I liked it because I didn't have to carry the whole show.
Yeah.
We could tag team for each other.
That's right.
And
the other group was called
Sweat Equity. The last band that I worked with before my daughter was born was a group called Sweat Equity. And that was really easy to do because we had all this material from the Cripples and Spare Parts.
Yeah.
So, when you got 30 or 40 songs, figuring out your set list is not a difficult challenge,
Yeah.
And I had the time of my life. For all the BS I had to put up with occasionally, I had the time of my life.
Yeah.
Great way to spend your youth, running around in rock bands, hanging out with, Bonnie Raitt used to come to my shows.
Great.
Okay?
Great.
And I got invited to so many parties, and luckily, I didn't have a big appetite for hard drugs.
Yeah.
I like to drink and smoke a little occasionally, and I am a big advocate for legalization of marijuana, and I was a big advocate for medical marijuana. And I know, like I tell people, you have spasticity when you have cerebral palsy, and mine is very not bad. Some people are tied up in big spastic knots, God bless them.
Yeah.
But, if I smoke pot, it relieves the spasticity without screwing up my motor skills, okay?
Yeah.
Because, I like to drink. I'm Irish, and I got nothing against drinking. Yeah. I only do the heavy stuff at my house, but...
speaking of...
Yeah.
Don't you brew your own stuff?
That's right. About 10 years ago, a dear friend of mine who was a winemaker and made phenomenal wines, but I said to him, Kevin, we got to start brewing beer because it takes 2 years before we can drink your stuff. Beer, in 8 weeks, you can start drinking this. So we went down to the brew shop, got all the equipment, and started brewing beer. And I'm a history buff. Anytime I get into anything, I start reading up on it. And I started reading up on brewing. And I kept hearing about this alcohol, which was called mead, ambrosia, nectar of the gods. It's the oldest, it's now commonly referred to as mead. It's a honey wine. It's the oldest brewed alcohol known to
Really?
mankind. It's
Wow.
brewed like beer and aged like wine. The only difference is in 12 weeks you can have a really fine bottle of premium dry mead. And I want to underline premium dry because if you drink normal mead, what we call grandma's mead, it's so sweet that it's sickening. When
Yeah,
I
yeah.
tasted mead the first time, I spit it out and said, I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And then my winemaking buddy, Kevin, said, no, we can dry it out.
Well, it's definitely a work of art. I mean,
It's a work of
brewing
art.
of any sort.
Yeah,
is.
no, it's a work of art. And what I like about it most is it teaches patience.
Yes.
Because you can brew up a batch, but then you got to wait 8, 10, 12
Yeah,
weeks,
yeah.
you know? So there's a lot of delayed gratification. But I like that because there's very few things in our hectic, crazy world
right.
that teach patience anymore.
That's
so
true.
It's a wonderful hobby.
That's a really interesting angle there. I'd never
Yeah,
thought of that
yeah.
before. Patience.
Yeah, patience.
Who would have thought
would have
brewing
thought? Yep.
alcohol is a lesson
Exactly.
in patience?
That's right. Well, we have some. I brew it in the kitchen and age everything out on my patio at the beach, and we have put stuff out there for a year. And anything over a year is called a grand mead, and man, it's delicious.
That's fantastic.
Aging is great in wine and with some humans.
Right, exactly. And Sean, this has been fantastic. Thank you for
It's been
joining
wonderful.
us. This is Nice Wonder, and you've been watching the NOWMAN Show with our guest, ShawnCaseyO'Brien.
Thank you.
Hello, this is NOWMAN. I am the superhero of the present moment and the host of the NOWMAN Show.
I'm Andrew Keegan, and when I'm in LA, I watch the NOWMAN Show.
We have all kinds of interesting stuff. Education,
Think about it.
entertainment.
Hi, my name is Erica Podest, and I'm a scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And next time I'm in Pasadena, I'll be checking out the NOWMAN Show.
Music, film,
Get down, get funky.
Hi, my name is Philippe Carrillo. I'm a filmmaker, and each time I'm in Los Angeles, I'm watching the NOWMAN Show.
we're on location.
Hi, I'm John Fugelsang, and when I'm in LA, I like to buy lots of shoes and not walk anyplace. But also, I like to watch the NOWMAN Show because it is better than the best show on all of TV.
The NOWMAN Show is also on YouTube. Now!
Well, this is lonely, eating me up. I'm tired of fucking with love. Yeah, this is lonely, lighting me up. I'm about to throw it all out. There's no reaction. A biological process. I'm gonna jump to action. And I work out my fantasies. Just like a D-Jet Chopper.